Hey friends, criminal defense attorney Ryan Pacyga, and today I want to tell you about a result we had in court, but first I want to talk about what some collateral consequences to domestic assault cases are. So in Minnesota, we have different levels of domestic assault. We have misdemeanors, gross misdemeanors, and felonies, all right? In any of those situations, if you are convicted of domestic assault, you will be forever prohibited from possessing a firearm or ammunition. And that's not only under state law, but under federal law as well. So, what can happen then is if you like to go hunting, for example, you can't do that anymore if you have a domestic assault conviction. But worse yet, there are other things, such as a lot of condos, townhomes, and apartment buildings won't let you live there if you have a domestic assault conviction, and they'll pull a background check to make sure you don't have any of those things. Volunteer opportunities. Some people like to coach sports or do Cub Scouts or other activities, either through organizations in their community or through school volunteering, maybe as chaperones or things like that. A lot of those background checks nowadays as well will come up with a domestic assault conviction, and if you have that, you'll be prohibited from doing those sorts of things and doing things for your community or even your own children. And then, of course, employment opportunities. Some people's jobs are terminated as a result of a domestic assault conviction, and other people have a hard time finding jobs or making lateral moves or moving up the chain within a company as well. So a domestic assault conviction can have a whole bunch of unintended consequences besides just having a criminal record, and you should be aware of that. Now, in this particular case, we had a client who was drinking that night, as was his life partner, if you will, and they got into an argument, and police were called. She called the police, and she said that he had been pushing her, and then he ran into a wall, and she pushed him once, and then he hit her a few times in the head, like slapped her in the head, and he was arrested for domestic assault. Now, despite her even admitting that she at least pushed him once, the police did not charge her as well. And of course, there's two sides to every story, but his side of the story was different, and that was that this was a mutual tussle that they had where they were both going at each other. Nonetheless, she wasn't charged with that, and in a lot of domestic assault cases, let's be honest, usually the male is the one that's charged, even if there's a mutual argument. Now, in Minnesota, interestingly, you don't have to lay a finger on anyone to be charged with an assault, even a domestic assault. There's two forms of domestic assault. There's domestic assault harm, where you do touch someone with an intent to cause bodily harm. And then there's domestic assault fear, which is the same level of crime. And that is if you put someone in fear of bodily harm without even laying a finger on them. Well, he was charged with domestic assault harm, and again, she wasn't charged for her part in the conduct. And generally, a lot of cases, unfortunately, I've seen people in court where they're pleading guilty to a domestic assault, and they have no idea that these collateral consequences can happen, such as the things I've already talked about here. Well, in this case, we knew we needed to get him help with the drinking issue, and went through that because it's important to put people's lives in a better place and not just help what's going on in the case, but hopefully get them in a position where they're never going to have to call us again. We're here to help if you need to, but we like improving people's lives outside of the courtroom too, so that people are in a better place after the case, not just legally, but in their lives as well, okay? And so in this case, we were able to get a very uncommon result. And in this case, he was able to get a stay of adjudication for a disorderly conduct and have the domestic assault dismissed. Here's what that means. Normally, if you're charged with a crime and you plead to it, there comes a conviction on that, right? In this case, a disorderly conduct is not as severe as a domestic assault, but even better, we got a stay of adjudication. That means that he pled to a disorderly conduct and the domestic assault was dismissed, so those other consequences don't happen. But in addition to that, the judge does not accept his guilty plea even to this disorderly conduct, and there's not a conviction entered against him as long as he behaves for 1 year on probation. Then he won't have any conviction on his record at all for this, which will really help for employment situations, him parenting his children and the opportunities that happen there, and even some living opportunities and other things for him. So that's an uncommon result, but you have to know every case is unique. Lawyers can't guarantee outcomes on cases. But if you get an experienced lawyer that really cares about getting to the true facts of the case, advocating for that story, helping you get in a position where you can change kind of what might have led up to some of this behavior. Sometimes that happens. Now sometimes there's just false allegations, but other times there are some things you could have done better in your case that wouldn't have got you in that situation in the first place. And if we see those things, let's address them. Judges are happy when that's done. Prosecutors are happy when that's done. And a lot of times the client's happy when that's done because their life is in a better place as well. If you have more questions on uncommon results on cases or how to get the advocacy you're looking for, I'm criminal defense attorney Ryan Pacyga. You can find me at arrestedmn.com or call me at 612-339-5844.